Randolph Air Force Base in Universal City, just north of San Antonio, has been training military pilots since the 1930s. These two squadron commanders at Randolph have begun an innovative new approach to flight training that could revolutionize not only the way the Air Force trains its pilots, but lead to further high-tech applications across the military and civilian sectors.
This room, about 8 weeks ago, was an old office room with a couple old desks in it. And so this, over the course of about 8 weeks, we went from getting the 360-degree goggles and videos recorded to within about, I'd say 4 to 5 weeks, we had a full complement of virtual reality simulators in here. And it's happened because it's a grassroots, bottom-up effort. And so it's allowed us to use some of the local sources to be able to acquire some computers, to be able to acquire the technology that exists here in the San Antonio and the Austin area, to be able to bring all this together.
We're not just accepting the status quo. We're willing to challenge, why are we doing it this way? And if there's not a good answer, and the only answer is because we've always done it that way, that's no longer acceptable. We can't afford to make those types of decisions with the threat that may emerge in the international scene.
This system here costs about $4,000 to put everything together. A traditional simulator is somewhere on the order of $1.5 million. So we can literally get hundreds of these simulators for that cost of those other traditional simulators. Now, those traditional simulators still serve a great purpose. They have a level of fidelity of instrumentation that we can't quite reach in this yet. But what we can do in this is I can actually take an instructor, I can put an instructor in the next seat over, and in the virtual world, that instructor can be sitting in the rear cockpit behind the student, and the instructor can put the student in dangerous situations in this virtual world to see if the student can recognize those situations and successfully recover from them. So we can get a higher level of safety than we've ever gotten in the past.
Colonel Strohmeyer and Colonel Chandler put me through the paces of this new flight training system. I put on the virtual reality headset and manned the controls of the simulator. The actual 3D HD 360-degree experience of flying the simulator is infinitely more immersive and realistic than viewing it through the computer screen. I was able to view and operate the cockpit controls, see the sky and landscape below me while experiencing the airplane's orientation to the horizon.
The one thing I would say is that to do this level of bottom-up innovation, what we found is we had to rethink how an Air Force squadron is even organized. Because we were traditionally organized to be able to take very directive top-down guidance and then to be able to translate that into daily flight schedule. Well, now what we are finding is that with the authorities that we've been given from higher headquarters, we are the ones that are kind of developing and iterating on the capabilities and adapting to the mission at the speed of the mission, at the speed of relevance.
Well, I really think we're just now scratching the surface on what's possible with this approach. Again, as we spoke about earlier, aviation is where we started. If you can kind of revolutionize the way we train pilots in the Air Force, that really opens up everything as a possibility. And I think you'll see this continue to grow, not just here at Randolph, but the other pilot training bases, and even the flight training units outside of AETC. I think we're proving that it works, that students are better, they're more prepared, they're better pilots. We think we'll get to a better trained and more proficient aviator in the end, but I think that's just part of it. I think this can have impact on every piece of the Air Force, every career field. I think it will also connect with this new generation that's coming through. Every airman that comes in is more and more comfortable with this technology, so we can leverage that, and I think that the service will be better and more lethal in the end.
So we've been given clear guidance by the Secretary of Defense and the National Defense Strategy, by the Secretary of the Air Force, by the Commander of Air Education and Training Command, to find the competitive advantage that we need to ensure that we can deter an adversary, a peer-level adversary, from fighting us, and if we have to fight, to ensure that we can dominate against that adversary. And incorporating this level of technology, incorporating deep repetition learning, and allowing these students to be able to see the flight environment so many more times over than they have in the past, can allow us, we think, to find that much higher level of proficiency, so that when they go off and they become the next generation of fighter and bomber and mobility pilots, it allows them to be able to potentially fight in a way that they've never been able to fight before, to be able to achieve a level of proficiency and really a level of combat air power capability that they've never been able to do before. And that's exactly what we've been asked to do by our senior leadership. So it's a very exciting time to be in the Air Force to be able to do this.